My name is Elena, and at 32 years old, I thought I knew what humiliation felt like. But nothing prepared me for the day I came home to find my entire life scattered across the lawn like garbage, my husband standing at the door with his girlfriend draped on his arm, both of them smiling like they'd already won. He threw my grandmother's quilt onto the driveway and told me to get off his property. His property. Those two words echoed in my head as neighbors watched from their porches, whispering behind hedges, too uncomfortable to intervene. What he didn't know was that the mansion he was so proudly claiming had a secret he'd overlooked for years, one that was engraved in gold right inside the front door. The moment his girlfriend walked into that foyer and read what was written there, everything he thought he knew about power, ownership, and control shattered in an instant. If you're watching this video right now, drop a comment telling me where you're from, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear more stories. I pulled into the driveway, and my heart stopped. My clothes were scattered across the perfectly manicured lawn like trash at a landfill. Sweaters I'd worn on our first dates. The blazer I wore when I closed my biggest architectural deal. My grandmother's hand-stitched quilt, the one she made when I was born, crumpled near the hedges like it meant nothing. The tall wrought iron gates stood wide open. Our neighbors lined their porches, pretending to water plants or check mailboxes, but I could feel every pair of eyes on me. The Hendersons. The choice. Mrs. Dalton from 3 houses down, clutching her gardening gloves like she wanted to help but didn't know how. Travis stood at the entrance of the mansion, my mansion, holding another cardboard box above his head like some kind of trophy. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, his hair gelled back the way he always wore it when he wanted to look important. He saw me park and his smile widened into something cruel and victorious. Then she appeared. Maya stepped out of the front door wearing a silk robe that barely covered her thighs and heels so high they clicked against the marble steps. She moved like she owned the place, her hips swaying as she looped her arm through Travis's and pressed herself against his side. "Baby," she said loudly, making sure her voice carried across the lawn, "should I throw out her makeup too? Or do you think she'll come crawling back for it?" A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Someone whispered something I couldn't hear. Travis ate up the attention like he'd been starving for it his whole life. "Watch this, babe," he shouted, his voice echoing off the stone facade. "She's done." He kicked one of the boxes at his feet. It tumbled down the steps, spilling my personal journals onto the driveway. Pages fluttered in the breeze. Private thoughts. Sketches. Memories I'd kept safe for years, now exposed for everyone to see. He was performing. This wasn't just about getting rid of me. This was about humiliating me in front of an audience, proving to everyone, especially Maya, that he had power over me. I turned off the engine and stepped out of my car slowly. I didn't run to gather my things. I didn't shout or cry or beg. I just stood there, hands at my sides, watching him like I was observing a stranger throw a tantrum. My calmness seemed to unsettle Maya. Her smirk flickered for just a second before she forced it back into place, squeezing Travis's arm tighter. More neighbors emerged. Mr. Patel from across the street, the young couple who just moved in last month. Mrs. Dalton took a few steps closer, her face twisted with concern. She muttered something under her breath. "This isn't right," but no one moved to stop it. Travis saw the growing crowd and straightened his shoulders, mistaking their stunned silence for admiration. He thought they were on his side. Maya walked closer to me, her heels crunching on gravel. She stopped just a few feet away, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something expensive that Travis probably bought with money he begged me for last month. "You know," she said, her voice soft but venomous, "he told me I'd run this place better than you ever did. I already picked out new curtains for the living room. Something with more color. Less boring." I looked at her carefully. She was younger than me, maybe late 20s, with perfectly styled hair and makeup that probably took an hour. She wanted me to feel old, discarded, replaceable. "Did you check the foyer?" I asked calmly. She blinked, confused. "What?" "The foyer," I repeated. "Did you look at it carefully?" Her confidence wavered. Travis noticed the shift in her expression and jumped in. "You have no power here," he shouted, pointing toward the street like I was some trespasser he was banishing. "Get off my property." My property. The words stung, not because they were true, but because he believed them so completely. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just raised my hand slowly and pointed toward the mansion's tall double doors. "Before you start redecorating," I said quietly, my voice steady, "maybe you should see who this place actually belongs to." Maya's face shifted. Curiosity mixed with something else. Insecurity, maybe. Fear that she'd missed something important. Travis laughed, but it sounded forced. "Stop stalling, Elena. You're embarrassing yourself." "Then prove it," I said. "Show her the foyer." Maya glanced at Travis, then back at me. She didn't like not knowing something. I could see it eating at her. "Fine," she said, turning on her heel and marching toward the entrance. "Let's get this over with." Travis followed, annoyed but still grinning, probably assuming I was just delaying the inevitable. The neighbors watched us move inside, a few of them inching closer like they were watching a play unfold. The foyer was exactly as I remembered it. Bright. Elegant. The chandelier my grandmother had imported from France sparkled overhead, casting soft light across the marble floors. And there, mounted on the wall near the grand staircase, was the gold dedication plaque. Maya stopped in front of it. Her mouth opened slightly as she read the engraved words aloud. "The Anderson Estate. Built in honor of Elena Anderson." Her voice trailed off. She turned to look at Travis, confusion spreading across her face. "Why?" she whispered, her confidence crumbling. "Why is her name on everything?" Travis's face went pale. The color drained from his cheeks, so fast I thought he might pass out. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again like a fish gasping for air. "That doesn't mean anything," he stammered. "It's just decorative. A tribute. It doesn't mean she owns it." But Maya wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at me, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw something other than smugness in her eyes. She saw doubt. I remembered the day we moved into this house. Travis had looked so small standing in the foyer, spinning in circles with his mouth open, marveling at the vaulted ceilings and the sweeping staircase. He'd kissed my forehead and whispered, "I can't believe we get to live here." At the time, I thought he meant we were lucky. I didn't realize he meant he was lucky to have found someone like me. Back then, Travis seemed humble, grateful. He supported my architecture career, bragged about my designs at dinner parties, stood beside me when I won awards. He made me feel like we were a team. But looking back now, I could see the cracks that I'd ignored. The way his smile tightened when someone complimented my work instead of his. The way he'd change the subject whenever I talked about a new project. The way he made himself smaller in public but resentful in private. Travis had big dreams. Big ideas. He wanted to be a real estate mogul, a self-made success story, the kind of man people wrote articles about. But every business venture he touched fell apart. Bad partnerships. Poor decisions. Money that disappeared into projects that never materialized. And every time he failed, he came to me. "I just need a bridge loan," he'd say, sitting at the kitchen table with spreadsheets he never actually read. "Just until the investors come through." At first, I helped him. I wanted to believe in him. But after the third failed venture, I started asking questions. Where was the money going? Why couldn't he account for missing funds? Why did his business partners suddenly vanish? The day I refused to give him another loan, something shifted between us. He looked at me differently. Not like a partner. Like an obstacle. That's when Maya entered our lives. Travis introduced her as his marketing assistant. She was sharp, polished, always dressed like she was attending a business conference even when she was just dropping off files. I met her a handful of times at company events, and every time, I felt something off about the way she looked at Travis. The way she touched his arm when she laughed. The way she lingered too long in conversations. I ignored it. I told myself I was being paranoid, insecure, jealous for no reason. I wanted to save my marriage, so I swallowed my instincts and pretended everything was fine. But everything wasn't fine. Travis started staying late at the office. He stopped asking about my day. He'd come home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine and tell me he'd been at client dinners. When I suggested couples therapy, he laughed and said I was overreacting. What I didn't know at the time was that Travis had been doing more than just cheating. He'd been planning. The mansion wasn't something we bought together. It was mine. My grandmother, a woman who built her fortune through real estate and philanthropy, had left it to me in a trust. She designed the estate herself, poured her heart into every detail, and named it after me before I even turned 25. The trust was ironclad. Travis had no claim to it, but he didn't know that. Or maybe he did, and thought he could find a way around it. I found out about his schemes during a late-night meeting with the estate trustee, a stern man named Mr. Kellerman who managed my grandmother's properties. He'd called me in urgently, his face grim as he slid documents across his desk. Travis has been trying to access the trust, Mr. Kellerman said. Multiple attempts. Forged signatures. Fraudulent loan applications using the estate as collateral. My stomach dropped. What? He's been listing himself as co-owner on financial documents. None of it's legal, of course, but it shows intent. You need to be careful, Elena. I went home that night numb. I didn't confront Travis. I didn't scream or throw things or demand answers. Instead, I started quietly preparing. I documented everything. I saved emails, recorded conversations, took photos of paperwork he left lying around. I built a case the way I'd build a blueprint, carefully, methodically, brick by brick. Then I caught Maya wearing my earrings. It was a small thing, almost insignificant, but it shattered the illusion completely. I'd left those earrings on my nightstand, the diamond studs my grandmother gave me on my wedding day. And there was Maya, walking through my kitchen, wearing them like they were hers. Travis didn't even try to lie. He just shrugged and said, she liked them. That's when I knew. He wasn't just cheating. He was erasing me, replacing me piece by piece, item by item, as if I'd never existed. A few weeks later, Travis sat me down and told me he was transferring all the household utilities into Maya's name. It's symbolic, he said, like he was doing me a favor. She's the future. You're the past. He expected me to break, to beg him not to leave, to fall apart so he could feel powerful. I didn't give him the satisfaction. Instead, I called my lawyer, updated my will, and made sure every legal document reflected the truth. This estate was mine, and Travis had no claim to it.
Not now.
Not ever. Standing in the foyer now, watching Maya's face twist in confusion as she stared at the plaque, I felt a strange calm wash over me. This was the moment I'd been preparing for. Not the spectacle on the lawn. Not the public humiliation. But this. The moment the truth became undeniable. Did you really build this place? Maya asked, her voice smaller than before. No, I said. My grandmother built it for me. She left it to me in a trust when I was 25. Travis knew that. He's always known. Travis stammered, his confidence cracking. That plaque doesn't mean anything. It's ceremonial. I've lived here for years. I have rights. I almost laughed.
Rights.
As if living in someone else's house gave you ownership. As if proximity to wealth made it yours. Maya turned to Travis, her expression shifting from confusion to anger. You told me you bought this place. You said it was yours. It doesn't matter, Travis snapped, his voice rising. I control it. Then show her the deed, I said calmly. The room fell silent. Maya's eyes locked on Travis, waiting for him to pull out paperwork, to prove me wrong, to show her that I was lying. But he didn't move. Because he couldn't. Maya took a step back from Travis, her arms folding across her chest. The silk robe suddenly looked ridiculous, like a costume she'd worn to play a part that didn't exist. You told me this was your estate, she said, her voice shaking. You showed me photos. You told me you bought it after your first business deal. You said it was proof you'd made it. Travis ran a hand through his gelled hair, messing it up for the first time all day. Babe, listen. No, Maya interrupted, her voice sharp. You listen. Where are the ownership papers you showed me? I watched him squirm. It was almost satisfying, seeing the man who'd spent years controlling the narrative suddenly lose control of his own story. "They're in storage," Travis said weakly. "With my lawyer." "It's complicated." "Then call your lawyer," Maya demanded. "I don't need to prove anything to you right now," Travis snapped, his mask slipping further. "You're supposed to be on my side." Maya's face hardened. "I thought I was. But you lied to me." The front door opened, and Mrs. Dalton stepped inside without knocking. She was a tiny woman, barely 5 feet tall, with silver hair and a floral cardigan, but she carried herself like she owned the world. "Elena, sweetheart," she said, ignoring Travis completely. "Do you need help? I can call someone if you need me to." Travis whirled around, his face red. "Get out of here, Margaret. This is private." Mrs. Dalton didn't flinch. "Don't you dare speak to me like that, young man. I've known Elena since she was a child. Her grandmother was my dearest friend, and I won't stand by while you treat her like garbage in her own home." Maya's eyes widened. Her own home. The words hung in the air like a verdict. Travis pointed at the door. "I said get out." "Or what?" Mrs. Dalton asked calmly. "You'll throw my things on the lawn too?" I almost smiled. Mrs. Dalton had always been fierce, but I'd never seen her this protective before. It felt good to have someone in my corner. Travis turned back to me, his desperation morphing into rage. "This is your fault," he hissed. "You've been poisoning everyone against me. You've ruined my life." "I ruined your life?" I asked, my voice steady. "I gave you a home. I supported your businesses. I believed in you when no one else did. And you repaid me by stealing from me, cheating on me, and humiliating me in front of the entire neighborhood." "I didn't steal anything," Travis shouted. "I just wanted what I deserved." "You deserve nothing," I said quietly. "You earned nothing. You contributed nothing. And now you're angry because the fantasy you built in your head isn't real." Maya sank onto the bottom step of the staircase, her head in her hands. "Were you even planning to marry me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Or were you just using me?" Travis spun toward her, his frustration boiling over. "Are you serious right now? You're supposed to support me, not interrogate me like I'm some criminal." That wasn't the answer Maya wanted. I could see it in the way her shoulders tensed, in the way her jaw clenched. She believed his promises. She believed in the life he painted for her. And now she was realizing it was all smoke and mirrors. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, and Mr. Kellerman appeared, dressed in his usual dark suit, his expression calm and professional. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He'd been managing my grandmother's estate for over 20 years, and he treated every property like it was his own. "Ms. Anderson," he said, nodding at me. "The trustees are ready for you in the study whenever you're available." Maya's head shot up. "Trustees?" Mr. Kellerman glanced at her, then at Travis, his expression unreadable.
"Yes."
"The Anderson Trust has a full board of trustees who oversee the estate's management and legal protections." Travis's face went white. "I didn't know there were trustees." "That's because you never asked," I said. "You assumed. You assumed this was yours because you lived here. You assumed you had control because I didn't stop you. But assumptions aren't the same as reality." Mr. Kellerman stepped forward, addressing Travis directly. "Ms. Anderson is the primary beneficiary of the Anderson Trust, which includes this estate, several investment properties, and a significant financial portfolio. You are listed as a resident spouse with no ownership stake and no legal claim to any trust assets." Maya stood up slowly, her voice cracking. "Primary beneficiary?" "Yes," Mr. Kellerman said. "Her grandmother established the trust to protect Elena's inheritance from exactly this kind of situation." Travis opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. He looked like a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. "You're not staying here tonight," Travis finally said, his voice desperate, grasping for any shred of control he had left. I met his eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt no fear.
"No guilt. No uncertainty."
"You're right," I said. "None of you are." Both Maya and Travis froze. "What?" Travis whispered. "You heard me,"
I said.
This is my home, my estate, my name on the deed, and I want you both out. Tonight. Maya stood quickly, nodding. I'll pack my things. Travis didn't move. He just stared at me, his face a mix of shock, rage, and something that almost looked like grief. You can't do this, he said. I already have, I replied. The study smelled like old leather and my grandmother's lavender perfume, a scent that lingered in the room even years after her death. I sat at her mahogany desk, the same desk where she'd signed business deals and written letters to politicians and planned philanthropic projects that changed lives. Mr. Kellerman sat across from me, a thick folder of documents spread between us. Maya had followed us into the room. She sat in the corner chair, silent, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold herself together. Travis stood near the door, his jaw clenched, his fists balled at his sides. Mr. Kellerman opened the folder and slid the first document toward Travis. This is the original trust agreement, signed by Eleanor Anderson and filed with the state 23 years ago. It names Elena Anderson as the sole beneficiary upon her 25th birthday. Travis barely glanced at it. That doesn't mean anything. Laws change. Marriages change things. Not in this case, Mr. Kellerman said. The trust is irrevocable and protected from marital claims. You signed a prenuptial agreement acknowledging this. Travis's face flushed. That prenup was about protecting her business assets, not the house. The house is a business asset, I said quietly. It's part of the trust's real estate portfolio. You knew that when you signed. I didn't read every page, Travis muttered. That's not my problem, I said. Mr. Kellerman pulled out another document, this one more recent. This is the updated digital filing from last year, which Elena had notarized after several irregularities were detected in financial applications using this property as collateral. Travis went rigid. What irregularities? You tried to take out loans using the estate's value? I said. 3 different attempts. All denied because you don't own the property. But the attempts are documented. Maya let out a shaky breath. She turned to Travis, her eyes filled with something between betrayal and disbelief. You dragged me into a lie. I didn't lie, Travis said defensively. I just didn't explain every little detail. Every little detail? Maya's voice rose. You told me we'd live here together. You told me you owned it. You made me believe I was moving into your home, not hers. It doesn't matter whose name is on the paperwork, Travis shouted. I lived here. I took care of this place. I earned the right to be here. By doing what? I asked. By lounging by the pool? By using my credit cards? By pretending to work while your businesses collapsed one after another? Travis took a step toward me, his voice venomous. I built this family. You didn't build anything, I said. You just lived in something someone else built and convinced yourself it was yours. Mr. Kellerman cleared his throat, pulling out yet another document. There's also a clause in the trust regarding living arrangements. Any individual residing on trust property must have explicit written consent from the primary beneficiary. That includes spouses. Travis laughed bitterly. So, now you're saying I need permission to live in my own house. It's not your house, Mr. Kellerman said firmly. And according to this clause, anyone living here without Ms. Anderson's permission is trespassing. The word hung in the air like a threat. Maya stood up, her voice trembling. Elena, I swear I didn't know. He told me everything was finalized. He said the divorce was almost done, and that he'd get the house. I thought I was moving into his place, not yours. I looked at her carefully. She was young,
Naive.
manipulated by a man who was very good at lying. I didn't forgive her, but I understood her. I believe you, I said. Travis snapped his head toward me. Of course you do. You two are ganging up on me now. No one's ganging up on you, I said. You're just finally facing the consequences of your actions. Mr. Kellerman flipped to the last section of the folder, his expression grave. There's one more thing, Ms. Anderson. We've documented several illegal attempts Travis made to access the trust's financial accounts. Forged signatures. Fraudulent loan applications. Misrepresentation of ownership. Travis's face drained of color. You can't prove that. We have emails, Mr. Kellerman said. Bank records. Testimonies from financial institutions that flagged your applications as suspicious. If Elena chooses to file charges, law enforcement will be involved. The room went silent. Maya's hands started shaking. Travis looked like he might be sick. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. This was the man I'd married, the man I'd loved. And now he was unraveling in front of me, exposed for exactly what he was. I haven't filed anything, I said slowly. Yet. Travis's eyes shot up to meet mine. Elena, please. Don't do this. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can work it out. Work it out, I repeated. You humiliated me.
You stole from me.
You brought another woman into my home and made her believe it was yours. You threw my things on the lawn like I was trash. And now you want to work it out. I was desperate, Travis said, his voice cracking. I didn't know what else to do.
You could have been honest, I said.
You could have asked for help. You could have treated me like a partner instead of a bank account. Maya wiped her eyes, smudging her mascara. You humiliated her, she said quietly. And you humiliated me. Travis whipped around to face her. Don't you dare turn on me now. I'm not turning on you, Maya said, her voice stronger now. I'm just finally seeing you clearly. Mr. Kellerman stood, gathering the documents. Ms. Anderson has made her decision. Both of you will need to vacate the property tonight. Security will escort you if necessary. Travis opened his mouth to argue, but Mr. Kellerman's expression left no room for debate. Maya nodded immediately, standing and heading toward the door. I'll pack my things and leave quietly.
I'm sorry, Elena.
For everything. I nodded, saying nothing. Travis stood frozen, his fists still clenched, his breathing heavy. He looked at me one last time, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not love, not regret, just anger.
Pure un filter d'anger.
This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is, I replied. He stormed out of the study, his footsteps echoing down the hallway. I heard him slamming doors upstairs, shouting incoherently, throwing things. Maya's quieter movements followed, the sound of a suitcase being dragged across hardwood floors. Mr. Kellerman turned to me, his expression softening. Are you all right, Ms. Anderson? I nodded slowly. I think so. Your grandmother would be proud of you, he said. She always knew you were stronger than people gave you credit for. I smiled faintly. I wish I'd believed her sooner. He handed me a small envelope. I almost forgot. This was in the safe deposit box with the trust documents. It's addressed to you, in your grandmother's handwriting. I took the envelope, my hands trembling slightly. My name was written across the front in her elegant script. For Elena, when you finally see him. My breath caught. She'd written this before any of this happened. Before Travis's betrayals. Before the affair. Before everything fell apart.
She'd known. Somehow she'd known.
I slipped the envelope into my pocket, not ready to open it yet. Thank you, Mr. Kellerman. He nodded and left the room, closing the door quietly behind him. I sat alone in my grandmother's study, listening to the sounds of Travis and Maya packing upstairs. The mansion felt heavier now, filled with tension and unspoken words. I pulled the envelope from my pocket and stared at it. When you finally see him. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, written on my grandmother's monogrammed stationery, her handwriting as steady and strong as I remembered. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes, but I read them anyway, each sentence landing like a stone in my chest. And then I saw it. Tucked behind the letter was another document, a legal addendum to the trust. My heart pounded as I read the title, Asset Recovery Protocol, activated upon evidence of marital fraud. This wasn't just protection. This was a weapon. And my grandmother had left it for me to use. I sat on the edge of my grandmother's old leather chair, the one she used to sit in when she reviewed contracts and made decisions that affected hundreds of lives. The envelope felt heavier than it should have, like it carried more than just paper and ink. The front was marked in her elegant handwriting, "For Elena, when you finally see him." My hands trembled as I opened it. The paper inside was yellowed slightly with age, but her words were as clear and strong as the day she wrote them. "My dearest Elena," it began, "if you're reading this, it means you've finally seen what I've feared for you. I worry you trust a man who envies your strength rather than celebrates it. I've watched him look at what you have, not who you are. The estate will protect you legally, but you must protect yourself emotionally. Know your worth, my darling. Never let anyone make you smaller to make themselves feel bigger." The plaque on the wall isn't just a dedication. It's a reminder that you belong here.
You always have.
With all my love, Grandma. Tears blurred my vision. She'd seen it. Years before I did, she'd seen exactly what Travis was. And she'd tried to warn me in the only way she could, by building protections I didn't even know existed. I wiped my eyes and noticed another piece of paper tucked behind the letter. It was thicker, more formal, with legal letterhead at the top. Asset Recovery Protocol, Addendum to the Anderson Trust. My heart pounded as I read the details. If I ever faced marital fraud, betrayal, or financial manipulation by a spouse, the trustees had the authority to immediately freeze all accounts, assets, and financial access that person had attempted to claim or control. It was designed to stop someone from draining resources during a contentious separation. It was a nuclear option, one that could destroy Travis financially within hours.
My phone buzzed on the desk.
A text from Mr. Kellerman. "Trustees are requesting authorization to initiate Asset Recovery Protocol. Awaiting your decision." I stared at the screen. One word from me and Travis's bank accounts would be frozen. His credit cards canceled. Any business ventures he'd started with money he claimed was his would collapse overnight. Part of me wanted it. The vindictive, angry part that had watched him throw my grandmother's quilt on the lawn like trash. But another part of me hesitated. Was this who I wanted to be? Someone who destroyed others, even when they deserved it. I heard shouting upstairs. Travis's voice, loud and desperate, followed by Maya's higher-pitched response. "You can't just leave me," Travis yelled. "You lied about everything." Maya screamed back. "You made me humiliate her for a life you didn't even own. Do you understand what you've done?" I stood and moved toward the doorway, listening. "I only lied because I was scared of losing you," Travis said, his voice softening into manipulation mode. "Elena turned everyone against me. She's poisoned the neighbors, the trustees, everyone. Can't you see what she's doing?" There was a long pause. Then Maya's voice, quieter but firm.
"No, Travis.
I see what you did, and I'm not staying." Footsteps pounded down the stairs. Maya appeared in the hallway, dragging a suitcase behind her, her makeup smeared, her silk robe replaced with jeans and a t-shirt. She looked younger now, vulnerable, like the confident woman from earlier had been stripped away. She stopped when she saw me standing in the study doorway. "Elena," she said, her voice cracking. "You need to be careful. He's not thinking straight. I've never seen him like this." I nodded slowly. "Thank you for the warning." She hesitated, then added, "I'm sorry. For everything. I should have asked more questions. I should have seen through him." "You're not the first person he's fooled," I said. "And you probably won't be the last." She gave me a sad smile and walked toward the front door. I heard it open and close quietly behind her. Now it was just me and Travis. I walked back to the desk and picked up my grandmother's letter, reading it again. "Know your worth." The words echoed in my mind. What was I supposed to do? Destroy him? Let him go? Somewhere in between? I stood by the large portrait of my grandmother that hung on the wall. She was younger in the painting, maybe in her 40s, standing in front of the mansion with her chin raised and her eyes sharp. She looked powerful, unshakable. What am I supposed to do? I whispered to the painting. The door to the study slammed open. Travis stood in the doorway, red-faced and sweating, his shirt untucked, his hair a mess. He looked manic. "What did you find?" he demanded, his eyes darting to the papers on the desk. I slid the envelope into my pocket, keeping my expression neutral. "Nothing that concerns you." Bullshit, Travis said, stepping closer. That's why you wanted me to see the foyer, isn't it? You've been planning this. You've been setting me up. I didn't set you up, Travis, I said calmly. You did this to yourself. Give me those papers, he said, his voice rising.
No.
He took another step forward, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of real fear. His eyes were wild, desperate, like a cornered animal. Before he could get any closer, Mr. Kellerman appeared in the doorway behind him. Sir, Mr. Kellerman said firmly. You need to leave.
Now.
Travis spun around. Stay out of this, old man. I'm calling security, Mr. Kellerman said, pulling out his phone. Travis didn't move. He just stood there, breathing heavily, his fists clenched at his sides. His eyes met mine, and I saw something dark flicker across his face. Not sadness. Not regret. Rage.
Pure un filter drage.
And in that moment I knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. Travis's hand slammed down on the desk so hard that the lamp rattled. Papers scattered across the surface, and I flinched despite myself. You ruined my life, he shouted, his voice echoing off the study walls. I gave you everything, and you threw it back in my face. I felt my own anger rising, the calm I'd been holding onto finally cracking. You gave me everything? Travis, you gave me nothing. You took my trust. You took my money. You took my dignity. And when there was nothing left to take, you tried to take my home. This was supposed to be our home, he spat. But you never let me be part of it. You always held it over my head. You always made me feel like I didn't belong. Because you didn't, I said, my voice sharper now. You never cared about me. You only cared about what being with me could buy. That's not true, Travis said, but his voice wavered. Then why did you try to access the trust? I asked. Why did you forge my signature? Why did you lie to Maya about owning this place? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. No answer. Because there was no good answer. Mr. Kellerman stepped further into the room, positioning himself between me and Travis. Sir, you need to calm down. Travis ignored him, his eyes locked on mine. I supported you. I stood beside you at every event, every award ceremony, every stupid architecture gala. I played the perfect husband while you got all the credit. You didn't support me, I said. You resented me. Every compliment I got felt like an insult to you. Every success I had made you smaller in your own mind. And instead of working on yourself, you blamed me for your failures. I didn't fail, Travis shouted. I just needed more time. I just needed you to believe in me. I did believe in you, I said, my voice breaking slightly. For years, I believed in you. I funded your businesses. I introduced you to investors. I gave you every opportunity to succeed.
And you squandered it.
Every single time. Travis's face twisted with something between anger and grief. You never understood the pressure I was under. Everyone expected me to be as successful as you. To live up to your family's legacy. I couldn't compete with that. I never asked you to compete, I said quietly. I asked you to be my partner. The room fell silent for a moment. Travis stared at me, breathing hard, and I could see the war happening behind his eyes. Part of him wanted to keep fighting. Part of him knew he'd already lost. Then Maya's voice cut through the tension.
Yeah.
I turned. Maya stood in the doorway, pale and shaking, her suitcase still in her hand. She must have stopped before leaving. He never planned to marry me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Did he? I looked at Travis, waiting for him to answer. But he just stared at the floor. Maya stepped closer, her eyes filling with tears. There's a clause in the trust, isn't there? Something about marriage. That's what you were waiting for. My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten about that clause. My grandmother's trust had a provision that after 10 years of marriage, a discretionary share could be released if the spouse proved loyalty and partnership. Travis had been counting down the years like a vulture circling prey. Oh my God, Maya whispered. You were using both of us. Travis finally looked up, his expression defensive. I deserve that money. I stayed. I put up with her controlling everything. I earned it. You didn't earn anything, I said, my voice cold. You endured. There's a difference. I supported you when you were building your career, Travis said desperately. I was there through the late nights, the stress, the failures. I was your partner. No, I said. You were my shadow. You stood behind me and made yourself useful just enough to claim credit. But the moment I needed real support, you weren't there. You were too busy resenting me. Maya let out a choked sob. Were you even planning to marry me, or just using me until the trust paid out? Travis rounded on her, his frustration boiling over. You're supposed to support me right now, not interrogate me like I'm some criminal. You are a criminal, Maya said, her voice shaking with anger. You committed fraud. You forged documents. You lied to me about everything. In a moment of blind rage, Travis grabbed the edge of the desk and flipped it. The lamp crashed to the floor, papers scattered everywhere, and I jumped back, my heart hammering in my chest. Mr. Kellerman immediately pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police.
No.
Travis shouted. No police. This is between us. But it was too late. I heard voices outside. Mrs. Dalton's worried tone, other neighbors gathering, sensing something was very wrong. The study door burst open, and Mrs. Dalton rushed in with two other neighbors behind her. She took one look at the overturned desk, at Travis's wild expression, at my pale face, and her eyes hardened. Travis, she said firmly, you've gone too far. Leave that woman alone. This is none of your business, Margaret, Travis hissed. It became my business the moment you started terrorizing Elena, Mrs. Dalton said. I've known her since she was a little girl. Her grandmother was my dearest friend, and I won't let you hurt her. More neighbors crowded into the doorway. Mr. Patel, the young couple from down the street. People who'd watched the scene on the lawn, who'd stayed silent then but weren't staying silent now. Travis looked around at all the faces staring at him. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of me. Fear of consequences. You're all against me, he said, his voice desperate. She's turned you all against me. You did that yourself, Mr. Patel said quietly. And then, in the chaos of voices and accusations, Travis said something that made everyone freeze. I had to forge her signature, he blurted out. She wouldn't give me access to the accounts. I had no choice. The room went dead silent. Maya gasped. Mr. Kellerman's expression turned grave. Mrs. Dalton's hand flew to her mouth. Travis seemed to realize what he'd just said. His face went white. I didn't mean that. I meant I had to use her information for joint accounts. That's not the same as forging. But it was too late. Everyone had heard it. The confession had slipped out in a moment of rage, and there was no taking it back. You committed fraud, I said, my voice shaking. And now everyone heard you admit it. Travis looked around the room, seeing the judgment on every face, the horror, the disgust. His empire of lies had crumbled completely. In the distance, I heard sirens. Mr. Kellerman had called the police. Travis's eyes met mine one last time. Elena, please. Don't do this. But I said nothing. I just stood there, holding my grandmother's letter in my pocket, remembering her words. Know your worth. Travis tried to run. He bolted for the back hallway, pushing past neighbors, heading for the rear exit. But when he threw open the door, a police officer stood on the other side, hand on his belt, expression stern. Travis froze. His freedom was seconds from disappearing. The police questioned Travis on the front steps while neighbors gathered at a respectful distance, whispering behind their hands. I stood in the doorway with Mr. Kellerman beside me, watching as Travis tried desperately to control the narrative. This is a misunderstanding, Travis said, his voice too loud, too insistent. My wife is upset about the divorce. She's making things up to hurt me. The officer, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression, glanced at me. Is that true, ma'am? No, I said quietly. It's not. Mrs. Dalton stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Officer, I witnessed him throw this woman's belongings onto the lawn this afternoon,
He was cruel about it.
deliberately humiliating her in front of the whole neighborhood. The young couple from down the street nodded. We saw it too, the husband said. It was hard to watch. More neighbors came forward, one by one, offering their accounts. Travis's face grew redder with each testimony. He'd wanted an audience when he thought he had power. Now that same audience was testifying against him. This is ridiculous, Travis snapped. These people don't know what they're talking about. Then let's talk about the documents, Mr. Kellerman said calmly. He handed the officer a folder. Inside, you'll find evidence of multiple attempts to access a trust fund that doesn't belong to him. Forged signatures. Fraudulent loan applications. Misrepresentation of ownership. The officer flipped through the pages, her expression growing more serious with each one. I also have recordings, I said quietly. From the last few months. Travis discussing ways to access the trust illegally. Travis admitting he'd been planning this for years. Travis's jaw dropped. You recorded me? I documented everything, I said. Every conversation where you tried to manipulate me. Every lie you told to financial institutions. Every attempt you made to steal what was mine. The officer looked at Travis. Sir, I'm going to need you to come to the station to answer some questions. I'm not going anywhere, Travis said. This is my home. Actually, Mr. Kellerman said, it's not. According to trust documents, Travis has no legal claim to this property. He's been living here as a guest of Ms. Anderson, and as of tonight, his invitation has been revoked. The officer nodded. That makes this a potential trespassing situation as well. Travis's face crumpled. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself, I said. Maya appeared from around the side of the house, her suitcase in hand, her face blotchy from crying. She walked up to the officer hesitantly. I need to tell you something, Maya said, her voice shaking. He told me to help him access her accounts. He said it was legal because they were married. I didn't know it wasn't allowed. I thought I was just helping him with paperwork. The officer's expression softened slightly. You're saying he asked you to help him commit fraud? I didn't know it was fraud, Maya said quickly. He made it sound normal, like something spouses do. But now I realize he was using me. Travis glared at her. You're lying. You're turning on me to save yourself. No, Maya said, tears streaming down her face. I'm telling the truth. And I should have told it sooner. The officer made a few notes, then looked at Travis. Sir, you're not under arrest, but we need you to come in for questioning. If you refuse, I can detain you. Travis looked around wildly, searching for an ally, someone who would defend him. But every face was either disgusted or pitying. No one was on his side anymore. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. I'll go. But this isn't over. Yes, it is, I said firmly. As the officer led Travis toward the patrol car, Mrs. Dalton walked over and pulled me into a tight hug. You handled yourself with grace, dear, she said softly. Your grandmother would be so proud. Other neighbors came forward, offering apologies for not intervening sooner, for staying silent when they should have spoken up. I accepted their words with quiet gratitude, feeling seen and supported in a way I hadn't felt in years. Mr. Patel shook his head. I always thought there was something off about him. The way he talked about this place like he owned it. Like you were just lucky to be here.
He fooled a lot of people, I said.
Including me. Maya approached me hesitantly, her eyes red and swollen. Elena, I know sorry isn't enough. But I need you to know I never wanted to hurt you. I believed everything he told me. I thought I was moving into a life we'd built together. I didn't know I was moving into yours. I looked at her carefully. She was young, manipulated, and genuinely remorseful. I didn't forgive her completely, but I understood her. I accept your apology, I said. But you need to be more careful about who you trust. I will, Maya said. I promise. She left quietly, her suitcase wheels clicking against the driveway as she walked toward a waiting taxi. Mr. Kellerman turned to me, his expression serious. The trustees are still waiting for your decision about the asset recovery protocol. If we initiate it, Travis's accounts will be frozen by morning. His credit destroyed. Any business ventures he started will collapse. I thought about my grandmother's letter, about her warning, about the life she'd built to protect me.
Do it, I said.
Mr. Kellerman nodded. I'll make the call. By the time the police car pulled away with Travis in the back seat, the sun was setting. The mansion's exterior lights flickered on automatically, casting warm glows across the lawn where my belongings had been scattered just hours earlier. Neighbors helped me gather everything. Mrs. Dalton carefully folded my grandmother's quilt. Mr. Patel collected my journals. The young couple picked up scattered clothes and books, treating each item with care. When everything was back inside, when the doors were locked and the security codes changed, I stood in the foyer and touched the gold plaque on the wall. The Anderson estate, built in honor of Elena Anderson. Grandma, I whispered. I finally saw him.
The house felt different now.
Lighter, peaceful, like a weight had been lifted from every room. For the first time in years, I was home. I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows. For a moment, I just lay there listening to the quiet. No footsteps in the hallway. No tension hanging in the air. No fear that saying the wrong thing would trigger an argument. Just peace. I got up and walked through the mansion slowly, taking in each room like I was seeing it for the first time. The living room where Travis used to hold court with business associates, bragging about deals that never materialized. The kitchen where Maya had worn my earrings like they were hers. The study where my grandmother's letter had changed everything. Every room felt lighter now, like the house itself could finally breathe. I made coffee and took it out to the back terrace, looking across the sprawling lawn toward the wooded area at the edge of the property. I'd lived here for years, but never explored that section. Travis had always dismissed it as just overgrown land. I thought about my grandmother's letter again, pulled it from my pocket, and read it one more time. As I reached the end, I noticed something I'd missed before. A small notation in the margin, written in pencil. Your future begins where your heart finds peace. I frowned. It felt like a clue, but to what? I walked across the lawn toward the wooded area, following an overgrown stone path I'd never noticed before. Branches hung low, wildflowers grew between cracked pavers, and ivy climbed up old iron trellises. And then I saw it. A garden, hidden behind years of neglect, but unmistakably intentional. There were rose bushes, a small fountain covered in moss, and pathways that curved between planted beds. In the center stood a marble bench, weathered but elegant. I walked closer and brushed away the dirt and leaves covering the bench's surface. Engraved letters appeared beneath my fingers. For Elena, may you always know your worth. I sank onto the bench, overwhelmed. This was my grandmother's favorite spot. This was where she'd come to think, to plan, to dream. And she'd hidden it away, waiting for me to find it when I was ready. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't sad tears. They were tears of release, of gratitude, of finally understanding what she'd been trying to tell me all along. I sat there for a long time, letting the morning sun warm my face, listening to birds sing in the trees overhead. An idea began forming in my mind, something my grandmother would have loved. I pulled out my phone and called Mr. Kellerman. I want to turn part of the estate into a healing retreat, I said, for women escaping manipulative or abusive relationships. Somewhere they can stay while they figure out their next steps. Somewhere safe. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Mr. Kellerman's voice, warm and approving. I think that's a wonderful idea, Ms. Anderson. Your grandmother would be very proud. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into planning. I consulted with architects, therapists, legal advisors, and nonprofit organizers. The mansion had more than enough space. Several guest wings could be converted into private suites. The garden could be restored as a meditation space. The study could become a resource center. Maya called me 3 weeks after everything happened. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Elena, she said quietly. I know I have no right to ask, but I heard about the retreat you're planning. I was wondering if there's any way I could volunteer. I want to help other women avoid the mistakes I made. I thought about it for a long moment. Maya had been manipulated, Yes, but she'd also participated in my humiliation. Forgiveness didn't come easily. But my grandmother had built this estate on the principle of second chances. You can volunteer, I said finally, but you'll start with administrative work.
Filing.
Scheduling. Nothing with direct client contact until you've proven yourself. Thank you, Maya said, her voice cracking with emotion. I won't let you down. Travis's legal situation deteriorated rapidly. The fraud charges stuck. His accounts remained frozen. His business ventures collapsed when investors discovered the truth about his financial situation. He tried to reach out several times, leaving voicemails that swung between apologetic and threatening, but I never responded. Mr. Kellerman kept me updated. Travis faced multiple charges: fraud, forgery, attempted theft, and trespassing. His lawyer was pushing for a plea deal, but prosecutors weren't interested in going easy on him. For the first time in his life, Travis was facing real consequences. And he had no one to blame but himself. The neighborhood changed too. Mrs. Dalton started coming over for tea every Thursday. Mr. Patel helped me restore the garden, teaching me about native plants and sustainable landscaping. The young couple offered to help with the retreat's launch event. People who'd once seen me as Travis's wife now saw me as Elena. Just Elena. And that felt right. 6 months after the confrontation, the retreat opened officially. We called it Eleanor's Garden, after my grandmother. 15 women attended the opening ceremony, each one carrying her own story of betrayal, manipulation, or escape. I stood at the entrance to the restored garden and gave a small speech, my voice shaking slightly, but growing stronger with each word. I lost myself trying to love someone who only wanted my life, not my heart, I said. I spent years making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. I ignored warning signs, silenced my instincts, and convinced myself that love meant sacrifice. But love isn't supposed to diminish you. Real love lifts you up. It celebrates your strength, not resents it. I'm building this place for every woman who needs to find herself again. Every woman who needs to remember her worth. Every woman who needs a safe place to land while she figures out her next chapter. The women applauded, some crying, some smiling, all of them understanding exactly what I meant because they'd lived it too. Maya worked quietly in the background, handling registrations and scheduling, speaking only when spoken to. She was humble now, stripped of the arrogance she'd worn when she first arrived. I watched her sometimes, wondering if she'd learned anything from all this. One afternoon, she approached me hesitantly. Elena, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. Everyone deserves a second chance, I said. What matters is what you do with it. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and went back to work. The retreat grew quickly. Word spread through support networks, legal aid offices, and social services. Within a year, we'd helped over 50 women. Some stayed for weeks. Others just needed a few days to catch their breath before moving forward. Each woman who walked through Eleanor's garden left a little stronger than when she arrived. And watching them rebuild their lives helped me rebuild mine. I never heard from Travis again after his sentencing. He got 3 years in a minimum security facility for the fraud charges, with probation and restitution payments stretching years beyond that. His assets were liquidated to pay back institutions he'd defrauded. His reputation was destroyed. Part of me felt sorry for him. Not for what he'd lost, but for what he'd never had. The ability to be content. The ability to celebrate someone else's success. The ability to love without resentment. But mostly I felt free. One evening, as the sun set over the estate, I walked back to the garden bench. The roses were blooming now, their scent filling the air. The fountain had been repaired and burbled softly in the background. The pathways were clear and lined with flowers. I sat on the marble bench and ran my fingers over my grandmother's inscription. May you always know your worth. Thank you, I whispered, for leaving me this strength, for leaving me this home, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. The estate was quiet around me, not the tense, suffocating quiet of the past, but the peaceful quiet of a place that had been reclaimed, a place that was finally being used the way it was meant to be. not as a status symbol, not as proof of wealth or power, but as a sanctuary, a place where broken things could be mended, where lost women could find themselves again, where I had found myself. I leaned back on the bench and watched the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. The mansion lights glowed warmly behind me. Somewhere inside, women were having dinner together, sharing stories, building friendships that would last long after they left this place. This was my grandmother's legacy. And now it was mine. The man who'd tried to take it all away was gone. The woman who'd helped him was learning to be better. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Home. Finally, completely, undeniably home. When someone tries to take credit for a life you built with your own hands, do you fight back with everything you have, or do you walk away and let karma do the work? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories about reclaiming what's rightfully yours.